I do not own the rights to this music.
Any river that you feel uncrossable, and have you any mountain that you can't tunnel through? But God specializes in things for impossible.
Hello, and welcome to Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron. Sunday School lesson for Sunday, September the 15th, 2024. Our reference material for the Sunday School Summary is based upon the International Sunday School Lesson Series as published by the Sunday School Publishing Board. We're discussing Worship in the Covenant Community as the title of the Fall 2024 lesson series, and it discusses worship practices as a grateful response to the covenant relationship that God initiated. The Worship in the Covenant Community lesson series is categorized into 3 units or groups of lessons, and we are in Unit 1, and we are discussing Leaders Set Example, Worship Example. And these lessons discuss worthy examples of worship as exhibited by the leaders of Abraham, King Solomon, King Hezekiah, and the prophet Josiah. The title of our third lesson in the Unit 1 Fall 2024 lesson series is titled, Is It Inevitable? Or in the case of the Lord, it is inevitable that he will come to our rescue as he does in today's lesson. 2 Kings 19 and 19 is our key verse, and it reads, Now, Lord our God, deliver us from his hand, so that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you alone, Lord, are God. So he is praying to the Lord to show the king of Assyria that he is God of all gods, that there be no doubt about it. The title from today's lesson is Inevitable, and it's from the book of 2 Kings, and it is a continuation of the history of the Israelites people after the death of King David. The book of 2 Kings documents the rule of King Hezekiah, who ruled the southern kingdom of Judah. Now, Hezekiah is acknowledged as a good ruler and did good things that pleased the Lord, just as his ancestor King David had done. He removed and destroyed the articles of idols that the people had worshipped, including the bronze snake that Moses had made during the trek of Exodus. Now, when King Hezekiah had ruled Judah for 14 years, King Sennacherib of Assyria attacked Judah with his army. He took all the strong cities in Judah for himself and then threatened Jerusalem. And he taunted King Hezekiah that his God could not save Judah and Jerusalem from the wrath of his army if Judah did not surrender, which brings us to today's lesson. The passages for the lesson today revolve around the key words faith, wisdom, and altar and covenant. Now we know that faith is a complete trust, assurance, belief, or confidence in God. It is King Hezekiah's faith and trust in God as reflected in his prayers in today's lesson. Wisdom is the ability to apply experience, knowledge, and understanding to produce good judgment. It is the wisdom of King Hezekiah to acknowledge God has been faithful to Israel and to his covenant to Israel in today's lesson, and to seek God's guidance. Altar, it's a raised structure or place on which sacrifices are offered to the Lord or incense is burned. And in today's lesson, King Hezekiah, King Hezekiah placed the note upon the altar of the Lord, which he had received, a threatening note from the king of Assyria. And we know that covenant is the agreement. To the Christian, it is a sacred agreement. And King Hezekiah acknowledges God's covenant with the people of Israel in today's lesson. There are two summary lesson points for today. Seeking God in times of crisis, and that's from 2 Kings chapter 19, verses 14 through 19. God hears and responds to our cries, and that's from 2 Kings chapter 19, verses 20 and 29 through 31. Seeking God in times of crisis from 2 Kings 19, 14 through 19. And these passages, King Hezekiah takes his troubles to the Lord and seeks guidance and deliverance and wisdom from the Lord. And he says, when Hezekiah received the letter with the threatening message, he read it, then he went up to the Lord's temple, he put it there in front of the Lord. And Hezekiah prayed to the Lord. He said, Lord, you are Israel's God. You sit on your throne between the cherubs. Only you are the God who rules all kingdoms in this world. And he says, you have made the heavens and the earth. So he acknowledges God's sovereignty over all other gods. And he goes on to say, Lord, please listen carefully to me. He says, Lord, look carefully at this letter. And he says, listen, Sennacherib's message. He is insulting you, God, who lives forever. And he says, it is true that his army has destroyed other nations and their lands. And he says, they have thrown out the gods of these other nations into the fire. But he says that they were not really gods. And he says people use wood and stone to make them so the Assyrians could destroy them, but they cannot destroy God because God is spirit. And he goes on to say that, so now our Lord and our God, please save us from the power of Sennacherib. Then all the kingdoms in the world will know that you, Lord, are only God. So he is asking God to prove to the world that he is God and to save him from the mighty Syrian army. Our second summary point is God hears and responds to our cries. And that's from 2 Kings chapter 19, verses 20 and 29 through 31. And these passages, God responds to Hezekiah's prayer. And he says, then Amos' son Isaiah sent the message to Hezekiah. The Lord, Israel's God, says, I have heard your prayer concerning Sennacherib, the king of Syria. And King Hezekiah, he says, this is how you will know that I have spoken a true message from the Lord. He says, this year you will eat the crops that grow by themselves, and next year you will eat what grows from the same seeds. But he says, in the third year you will plant seeds for yourself, and they will give you a harvest of crops. You will plant vines again, and you will eat grapes from them. And he says that the people who remain in Judah will be like strong plants that put their roots down into the ground. And he said the branches will give tons of fruit. And he says a small number of people who will still live in Jerusalem, and he says they will leave Mount Zion and they will go to other places. He says that the great love that the Lord Almighty has for his people will cause that to happen. Or in other words, because of God's covenant relationship with the Israeli people, they will be saved from the king of Assyria. This is Brother Ron with a Sunday School summary for Sunday, September the 15th, 2024. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed week, and we hope to see you next Sunday for another edition of Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron.